amigos, I'm so happy and so glad you guys are watching this fantastic podcast. This is my first episode and I'm so happy to introduce all about my life. My name is Alejandro. I'm from Ecuador. I'm 41 years old. I got a wonderful family, a wife and two kids, Marcela, and my kids, Alejandro and Alejandra. We live in Quito, we live in Ecuador. I've been a guy for over 20 years. I've been on the road for over 20 years. And I'm so happy right now to share all my stories, crazy stories with you guys. Stay tuned and don't forget that this is all about my life. I am the elder of 3 boys. My parents struggle a lot with that because, imagine 3 boys on a family. I was the leader, I was the elder, and I was also the troublemaker. So my parents, Marco, that's why my first name actually is Marco for my dad, and Francie, my mom, my brothers, Juan and Eric. We always work together, we always are together, and we have different stories to tell. However, on top of that, we grew up in an area that was a bit complicated in the outskirts of Quito, since that we were struggling a little bit in the crisis. However, I got a very interesting part of life that we gotta learn how to survive, right? Because I live in the outskirts of Quito, where we didn't have even transportation. I gotta hitchhike every day to go to school. I gotta hike 1.5 miles each way to get home from the place that the bus dropped us. We didn't have electricity 24/7. There were a lot of blackouts, so we didn't have a chance to have a regular life. However, that was a memorial time that I got with my friends. Even though we were living far away, but the community that we were living out was so nice. I can identify myself as a travel planner. I can identify myself as like a leader since I was a little kid. That's why this is part of the chapter. My life as a parrot. Basically, since I was a little kid, I love talking. You guys probably can tell, I love talking. And always I was trying to plan and organize things to everybody, to even neighbors. So I remember one time we were on a forest, we were on a park, and we already visited around, we already hiked around, and we were kind of resting. So then next to us after, during our picnic time, next to us there was another family that just were kind of looking around. They were not sure about where to go. And listen what happened. Basically, I approached to them, I was 7 years old. Basically I approached to them and I explained in detail from A to Z all the places that they should go visit. So then every single time I was the same thing. This is why I can recognize myself as a travel planner. And of course, this is when my family started calling, "You're like a parrot." I never stopped talking, right? So basically that helped me a lot when we joined some difficulties. Basically we had a problem with the economical crisis in the 90s. You guys can also check it out later on about what happened in Ecuador in the 90s. That was very hard, very difficult. We had to use our inventions, we have to use our initiatives to survive, to get over all these problems that we have. Obviously, money issues came out straight away, and me being one of the leaders of the family, besides of my parents, I took the decision of trying to innovate and trying to enter to a business. Imagine when I was 10 and a half years old, I started my first business. So this is when I remember that part a little bit sad, because this is when my parents moved to, they have to migrate. The crisis was tremendously bad here. My father lost his job, my mother as well wasn't working, so there was no money at all. So then they gotta move to the US for over 1 year, and listen what happened. I stayed as the dad of my 2 brothers. One was by that time 12 and Eric was by that time 7. He was crying as crazy every single night because he was missing our parents. And I gotta become a parent for them because there was no other option. When I was 14 and a half, I already had to be in charge of paying all the checks. I gotta be in charge to send them to school, even though I was also in high school. I got also to go over my own homeworks. And this is when I kind of built up this anger that, of course, don't do it. But I was so mad and so angry, and I got a slogan saying, why it happened to me? Every single time that something happened, I was like, why this has happened to me? Basically, it happens for a reason. And on top of that, you gotta go over everything because, you know, the only big problem that you have in life is when you die. So as I didn't die, so I find a way to go over all these problems, right? So was very interesting, was very annoying, was also happy as well in a certain part, that at the end I went over all these problems and basically I became an adult right away, out of the crisis in the 90s. Then I kind of cured this anger when I became more sportive. I always been very sportive, you know, you can tell every single child sort of like to play. And I was even more hyperactive. I love to move around, I never stay still. This is also why my family called me a parrot. I kind of released this anger of the crisis, enter into sports. I believe you guys heard about how good we are on soccer here in Latin America, and Ecuador is of course not the exception. I love soccer, I still practice, I still love to watch also soccer all over the world, and obviously when the national team of Ecuador plays, I'm one of the first going and supporting them and shouting right there at the airport, at the stadium, because I love it. I went into different sports, swimming, I did play soccer as well, I did martial arts. Maybe you can guys see here, the ones that are watching me on YouTube, you can see here I have a lot of Chinese tattoos. This is all about my names, and later on in other chapters I'm gonna show you also the other tattoos that I have that are related with the Asian culture. That also will be another chapter because I love the Asian culture as well. So I kind of release all my anger on sports. Even that I'm 41 years old, and sometimes even tell the truth, look like younger than my brothers, because I love to run right now. I went into running maybe 7-8 years ago, and I'm still running, and I love it. So this is actually part of how I built up this leadership, how I built up this interaction with people. I love talking to people, I love visiting places, I love meeting people, and this is why I decided to set up this podcast for you guys to listen to me, and also for you guys on YouTube that you are tuning. You can see us and be present on this real story. When I was in high school, out of performing all the sports, I kind of released the anger out of practicing sports, but then all this anger went down to the school. I was a terrible student when I was in high school, because my school, the high school that I was studying with, I didn't like it. I hated it so much, and it became even worse when my parents left, and I gotta do all the duties that I mentioned. So I hate the high school. So if you ask me if I have a friend, a best friend from high school, my answer is no. I got friends, of course, but not as the good friends that I had when I started university. So after I finished high school, my father, being a civil engineer, said, you my beloved first son, you can have my name, you have to continue with the tradition. So I have all the supplies, I got a drawing table, I got the lab, I got everything for you to become a wonderful and fantastic engineer on architecture. And guess what happened? So my dad said, okay, you're going to study architecture after you finish your high school. So we went to the Catholic University and I started studying architecture because I actually, one of my hobbies sometimes is drawing. I like drawing. So my dad said that match perfect because you as an architect could be very inventive. I always been inventive. I always been entrepreneur. So you can do like fantastic designs because you like drawing. Anyway, I was in university, but when I entered to university, I was not feeling that fulfilled my life as a career. So this is why I stayed in the university, attending classes for honestly few weeks, and then after that I didn't know how to tell my parents that I was not attending classes anymore. That university was pricey. Even that, of course, the crisis was over. However, that was a big waste of money. But I felt that I was not fitting in that system. I felt that I was not fitting in the idea of becoming an architecture because I hate numbers. So basically, I realized that was not going to be my way of living. So one day I took the courage and I told my parents, especially to my dad, hey dad, I don't want to study anymore this thing. So why? You're crazy. What are you talking about? You are in the best university. You will become a brilliant architecture because you sound like. I sound like for you, not for me. And this is one of the advices in life. So you have to do something that fulfill your energy, that kept you committed to do every single day. As I am now, I'm still guiding. I'm still committed to do every single thing that is related with tourism. So, passing on that, but that's okay. You'll become a black sheep on the family. Everybody was hoping on you to continue the university. You are the first of a long line of kids waiting and just watching you. You are the reference. But I said that I don't feel that I became an architect. Just leave me alone. Give me a second to think about it. So what happened? I went to a supermarket in Quito, and I asked if I can work, and I got this job in the liquor store, probably like the wrong place. I was a teenager. I was still practicing sports, but I was into drinking a little bit, having fun, dating girls. That could be another episode of my life, but just to summarize of that, I switched it to something that I was feeling happy. And then my dad said one day, yeah, I don't want you just to work. I want you to study something that you might be passionate. What's your passion? And I said, I don't know. I like talking. Again, talking as a parrot. So my dad said, okay, now we're gonna find you another skill that probably for you in the future will be so useful. Guess what happened? English. English in that time when I was 18 years old was zero. I couldn't even say hello in English. I was so shy, so afraid, shy to even open my mouth. And that was the moment that I was kind of annoyed and also worried and nervous about talking in English. I didn't know any word of English. That was very challenging. One of my main challenges in life was to learn English. I know my English is not perfect, but I can communicate so far. You guys can understand, right? If not, just put in the comments that you don't understand. I'll just do my best next time. Basically, I entered to one of the best English institutes in Ecuador. That is gone. I cannot tell the name. It's gone. And from time to time, I felt that was very difficult. But then after that, as I love talking, I took it serious. Guys, if you want to learn a language in general, you don't have to consider, should I talk this way? Should I just learn that way? Should I just memorize that thing? No. Language is like you guys talk. It's natural. You need to feel that you have to express your feelings. This is how it goes. It takes a while to understand, however, this is how it goes. Back in English, I was on an intensive course, let's say. I was passing on levels every 3-4 weeks. And I felt that my English was getting fluent, not as fluent as now, of course. However, I got a conversational English and I could distinguish from the rest of people, from the people on the street. English level in that time in Ecuador was zero. people didn't speak English at all. Now it changed a little bit, however, it's still a good skill, right? So I decided to join tourism for that reason, because in a certain moment we have to talk. I remember in conversation and classes on English, we had to express, we have to do presentations regarding attractions in Ecuador, Disney World, the Antarctica, and I started liking and mentioning that. This is why I say, oh, you know what? I would rather be something in tourism, because now I'm gaining this confidence to communicate on a different language that is a universal language, English. And I said, probably that would match perfectly with my life. So then my wife, my father came up to me one day and said, you know, okay, now this is the time, you gotta decide what to do, because we cannot afford anymore for you to stay at home and just learn English. Maybe for you will be a good opportunity to find a cruise. You could work as a crew member on a cruise, on hospitality, maybe in a hotel. Who knows, maybe you can work in a travel company, on a travel agency. Who knows, you can meet people from all over the world. And my dad said, at the end, well, if you don't like this way, like too formal, or too numbery, like too many numbers, and to have schedule, why you don't just try to become a guide, or even to work in a national park like a park ranger? As you manage the language, probably you will match perfectly. And then I say, probably we should try. Probably we should try. We entered, we asked many people here, what was the best place to study tourism? It was an institute that right now is a university. And since I just stepped into the building, I love it, and I remember until now. I was so committed to enter, to go, to become a guide. I imagine myself, even 3 years in advance, that I was already a guide, and I was guiding all over the world, and I was guiding to everybody. Because I felt confident with my language, with my English. Even though, again, my English was not very good as now. However, you know, I felt that tourism was going to be my life. I started, it was kind of hard at the beginning, but the easiest part, guess what happened? English. The first level to become a guide was English, English, and more English. And that skill, I already had it. So for me, it was an opportunity on top of anyone, because I already managed the language. So my training was 3 years, divided in 6 semesters. Just to short the story, out of the third semester, I was already working as a guide. Of course, I was a kind of part-time guide. I was like the last guide on the city when the other guys were not able to attend any groups or do anything. I was the last call. However, I took it like an opportunity to learn, to get to know about real life. That for sure we will do another chapter about real life. That not always that what you learn is what you will use. It's basically real life that make you perform on a way that is correct. But basically, I was so committed to do it, to study every day. I was combining with my job. I was working already as a guide. I was studying, I was traveling. I met a lot of friends, and until now we are even co-workers. We were classmates at the beginning of over 20 years. Until now we have a wonderful memories of what happened in the university. Actually several people that were classmates, actually we worked together, and we still remember all this craziness that happened as it was yesterday. Imagine 20 years ago, 22 years ago, and until now we remember as it was yesterday. So these are like life memories, life stories that you keep it in your heart, you keep it in your mind, right? And you keep it all the time, and you cannot liberate and release that. You shouldn't release that. So why you're gonna release something that just keep in mind and make you feel happy and remember things that are in your life were special or are special. Basically, until now, this is the chapter, and this is the part that I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed this part. I don't want to be too formal, but obviously everything ends up in a certain point. It's not the end of my story. This is my end of my first chapter. Thank you for watching us. You can also find us on YouTube and podcast as Guide Ecuador. Guide as a tour guide and Ecuador as a country together with one E. You find us either on YouTube, you find us either on podcast or all social media. I am Abraham here, and you are more than welcome to explore what we have for you. Stay tuned and don't forget our next chapter, because I'll be sharing more information and more real life stories that I'm sure you will love it. Stay tuned and we'll see you next time.